agus fáilte go trí chequered den program ag BBC Alba ha chursel spórs an band fan Phrìomh Lìg. Is me Iona Ballantyne agus ha mi toiseach go bhfuil seann chluicheadair rugby na h-Alba Heather Lockhart ar cholrúm san studio. Ar program na héiche noch, glí SWPL sílagan na cheachgain, clúna sin bud na clubichan a há dochas a Phrìomh Lìg ar uain. Agus ha sin na lé mar cool na coile Formula Logan Hannah, sgioba Madriach and a réisio charichan Formula Ford. Heather, welcome back to 360.
Thank you very much, nice to see you.
Now things are changing all the time since the last time you were on. We actually haven't really had an update on rugby and where it's at and where it's been, probably since about January time. So if we just kind of go over, quite a lot's happened in that time. If we just go over even the new format, Six Nations. I mean, for you, how do you feel like Scotland got on in that tournament?
Yeah, so for this year's Six Nations, normally it's held in February, March time, but due to restrictions, etc., it was during April time, and it was a slightly abbreviated format. There was only 3 matches instead of the 5, and there was 2 pools of 3, and Scotland came 5th overall. So they had pool matches against England and Italy, and they finished with a really solid win against Wales. That's only the 2nd time they've beaten Wales in 14 years. So in terms of the championships, so I think that was a really positive win to end on. So slightly different format, and I think it made for the last weekend like sort of the playoff matches, so for 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, that was a really exciting format. But I think I would imagine that teams are wanting to play more matches rather than less matches. So in terms of the championships next year, I would imagine that they'll go back to everyone playing everyone and increase visibility rather than less matches. So, but really positive to finish on that win against Wales ahead of the qualifiers, the World Cup qualifiers. They were obviously meant to be this year. They delayed from last year and then meant to be now, and then they've been delayed again to the end of this year. So hopefully they get that played. So what we do know now since January is Spain are the 4th team that Scotland will be playing against. So they'll play Italy, Ireland and Spain for the World Cup qualifiers. There's 3 spots available. Scotland could either get 2 of them, either by being the winner of the European Championships at the end of this year, or if they become the runner-up of that championships, they go into a final qualification tournament called a repechage. And so they would have another chance, and they would go in with the runners-up of the Asia tournament, Samoa, and the winners of Colombia and Kenya. Colombia and Kenya, that's a tough one to play during restrictions. So the organisers are doing well. So hopefully that will all be played. And by the World Cup being delayed a full year, even like more than a full year, it's going to start October the 8th next year. And it's going to go on for longer. So that gives, I think that's sensible and gives that, we talked about it briefly in January, whether that would be an option to delaying the actual World Cup in New Zealand next year. So it's been rescheduled for October the 8th next year. So yeah.
Do you think with that delay and just, I mean, the lack of game time for Scotland as a squad just now, do you think they can really use this time now to build as a team? Because there has been a lot of changes, a lot of younger players coming up who maybe haven't played on the world stage before.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point, because obviously before this year's Six Nations, the last time they played as a team was a really, really positive draw against France in October. And then to come and play their next match, they played internal matches, but as a squad against England and Italy, and so each match they were improving. I know they were disappointed with the performance against Italy, but fair play to Italy, and their backs were really, really outstanding. But each match progressed, and as you say, there was emerging players. There was 3 players that had their first caps in this year's Six Nations. Evie Gallagher did really well, started the 2nd and 3rd games, got a try against Wales, so that was fantastic. And Evie Willis and Crean Grant also got their first caps. And also I think a shout out as well to some players that maybe were playing in different positions. So I think that was really, really beneficial during the Six Nations. Christine Belial played in the front row, and Louise McMillan, she normally would be back row, but she partnered Emma Wassell in the 2nd row and made, I would say, added real value to the scrum and the line out. So yeah, it's interesting, that versatility. And also Jay Conkle was unavailable for this championship. I was just going to ask you about her,
a player who was missing, because she did actually put a pause in her rugby career to pursue a career in the fire brigade, which is amazing. Do you think we will see her back? I know you've been in contact with her.
Yes, I think for sure.
Back in the Scotland set up too?
Yeah, fingers crossed. Yeah, fingers crossed. That was a big thing for her. I'm sure Jade would love to be out in the pitch. So she's been keeping up to date with her physical. I mean, training for the fire is not one easy ask. So she passes out tomorrow, which, well done Jade, fantastic, hats off to you. So, and I'm sure we'll see her back in the rugby pitch very, very soon. So, and she'll have been pleased to see the players playing in the back row and helping out there. Siobhan Catigan, very different to Jade, and you wouldn't compare them. In fact, they're quite compatible in terms of playing. You know, Siobhan could play in different positions. She could play any position across the back five. So she slotted in at number 8 in Jade's absence and quietly efficient, quietly went about her job. So I'm really pleased to see that happening too. And so the development of the whole squad. So I'm sure Jade would be too, but I'm sure she'd be itching to get back on the field soon. Yeah.
I can imagine. We're definitely looking forward to having her back.
Yeah, indeed.
Thank you.
Indeed.
Chorus còig mìosan an bhith SWPL jaar stad Sally Begaller. Han Lìg Chile sgioba gen ógfias, agus le da áte sa Phrìomh Lìg chothrom, bal cosig leòr chluicheadair.
Idas sa dúlach dábhile sa fichid van SWPL i de chasg le cuide na scipian is tríach múlach Lìg ar son uine na háte gannaing hús gan Phrìomh Lìg. Ach tras sa chéideang Hannah gneach gro Lìg Chile is an tíabhá in dogfias leis na clubichan inirt a gulachug ar son clár gama trang.
Yeah, I'm really pleased. It's been a long time coming, a long wait, and we're very fortunate because there's leagues out there that's, well, they've just been scrapped, so it's good to actually get a date and have something to look forward to.
We all had doubts that it wouldn't resume, so it's good we can play the final 8 games and fight for the second and first spot.
It's been a long time coming again. It kind of came at a good time for me because I was injured on a selfish point of view, so it's kind of gave me time to rehab. But the girls are just buzzing to be back in and just to get going again.
It's great, it's coming back. We've just been dying to get back to playing. Going back to training's been really good. The atmosphere and it's been really high intensity. I think everyone's looking forward to getting back, so we're really pleased that we're going to get back to playing games again.
Ha operaing is ag bara chlára drásta, a chalán is ag na scipian gehíseal gosúning sin áracha a SWPL an seachcingin, ha go leor puingin the aing hast.
Like Aberdeen are 6-7 points ahead of us, but we're the only team in the league that's actually beat them. So we still have that belief in ourselves that we can go and potentially win this league. That's our goal anyway. We're not going just for second place. We believe that we've got a good enough squad and a good enough team that we can go and we can challenge. Although they've got that head start, we've got the belief that we can actually go and challenge them.
This league's been the most competitive. It's like, you don't know, each game you don't know who's going to win, and you still, even though Aberdeen's 7 points ahead, that's nothing. Anyone can catch them. I think the SPL2 is always so tight. You never know when you're going to a game who's going to win it, what's going to happen.
There's no underdogs, you know what I mean? So everybody can beat each other, and it's proven with the results. And obviously 4 or 5 teams could in theory get promoted, well, challenge for promotion, so yeah, it's really challenging this year.
Bhí na gemichin a tín trích gesaicheach nu de thilleas Lìg, agus féimi gach club a clechca go thula páirtin skipa acha go héipachgach. Ach unrútá cínteach, with ula chud holite a bhí a training, agus a gulacha le dáchas, son na hamasanach goríing.
It's going to be really challenging, because we all work and school and stuff, so it's going to be pretty full on, but if it means we get to finish the league, then we're all up for it. Yeah,
everyone seems buzzing and ready to go. Yeah, we know we've trained hard recently, and hopefully it'll pay off when we return to games.
Everybody's been really excited, getting back in, a lot of fitness again, since it's like our 3rd pre-season, but I think we just know what's got to be done basically, just to get back on the pitch, which is the main aim. I think it's 8 games in 24 days or something like that, so it's going to be tough. But as I said, we've got a really good squad, and it's going to take every single one of us to get that final push. So yeah, we're looking forward to it. Ask me that in another 24 days, but I might not be seeing that. My legs might be killing me.
everyone's really focused. I think everyone's just so determined to kind of get their spot in the team, to be honest. I think everyone's just wanting to show how hard they've worked, and obviously we've had to do a lot behind the scenes with not being at training, so we've had to work really hard, and it's hard to focus when you're not in a team environment, because football is a big part. Your teammates are a big part of the game, so we've had to focus on doing our own fitness and things like that. So it has been, for myself, I found it quite challenging, although I've enjoyed like running and things like that. It's still hard when you're still working and trying to squeeze everything in, but being back at training, it really helps everybody. Like I say, with it being a team game, it's good you've got people to pick you up, and going to football, just take your mind off things, and it's really good to be back.
Tá colach go bhfuil áirteacha go féimhidí sin na clubíchan sin, ach ag níd is a thara heann. Sé neamhfad do lucht taichs na chluicheadair nach bíad a bheith fata inisht, agus a drásta sé an teachra fan na chulachlub go bhfuil an príomhachas díadach the nága a háchacha.
Obviously it's nice, but no, I think one game at a time, do our job on that day and really just focus on ourselves, don't look at MD else sort of thing. Yeah, we're out to get the 3 points each game, so hopefully it'll be good stead for come the end of the season.
Oh, it'll be great. I've been there since it started under United, so to win this league and to say I got the team to the top league, it'll be a good achievement, personally and as a team as well.
I'm more experienced enough to be saying we just have to take one game at a time. Yeah, obviously that is our dream. That's been our goal since the very start of the season, to get that promotion. But it's such a competitive league, as you said at the start, that it just depends how you are on that day. Everybody can beat everybody. But we're just going to take it one game at a time. I think that's all we can do. And if we pick up the points, excellent. If we don't, we've not really thought about that. But yeah, it's just one game at a time for us.
The league is so tight, and it's anyone's game. I know that Aberdeen are a bit higher than everybody else, but like before the 22nd of December, that game, I think we were sitting second, and then with that one loss, that put us down to 5th. So that just shows you how tight it is. But if it was in that top 2, I think it would just be absolutely amazing. I've been at the club since it was Jeanfield, and now it's obviously St Johnstone. So for me, I got the promotion up to this league with them. So to go up to SPL 1 would be absolutely amazing. But like I say, we'll take it game by game and hope that it happens. But if not, we'd rebuild and go into next season and hope for that in the next season.
Heather, you can really feel the determination from each and every player in that feature. I mean, how much will a return to the league and a proper return to sport really help the physical and mental health of these players?
Yeah, it's almost like a standalone competition, because it's 8 matches in 24 days. So that's and they're saying, oh, this is almost like a third pre-season at the moment. So it almost sort of changes the complexity. But it's interesting, Warren Gatlin today from the Lions coach, he was saying, oh, it's the teams that can adapt the most. There's always going to be challenges. So for those teams, and I think one of the girls was saying it's really helped her, go to training, get back into full-time training with the group rather than training individually. So I think all these teams with so much the 2 slots to play for, and it's so close at the top there. Aberdeen are obviously 7 points ahead. So I think all those girls, it's just fantastic that they've got the opportunity to do that. So it's from the 6th of June to the 4th of July, really condensed, but fantastic that they're getting the opportunity to do that. And a couple of teams have never played in the SWPL before, so to have that opportunity to even go for that, and with even one match, swinging it either way. So yeah, so good luck to them. Yeah, fantastic. They're getting the opportunity, yeah.
Well, you can see actually it gives the players so much focus now after not really having anything good, or I don't mean good, but having anything like sport to focus on for so long with so much uncertainty.
Yeah, it's interesting. it's just like, it just changed, like, you know, I think for a sports person, you know, at some point it's going to happen, but it's just like when and stuff, so it's dealing with that. It was interesting, the boat race, somebody was saying that they had the weights all lying around their flat and kept stubbing their toe in the weights. I was like, I can relate to that. And so it's the same, you know, things are going to happen, you just have to be ready when it does happen. And so it's just adapting, and that's the challenge. And all those players are used to playing sport, and so you have to, when you play a football match, there's always going to be challenges, things will happen, somebody gets sent off, etc., and you go at half time, right, how are we doing, how are we going to handle this? And so I think probably the last few months has been that you know, in your life as well as in sport. So it's just being able to come together. One girl was interesting, was saying that, you know, it's so nice to be with the group and like help each other through that. So to come together and focused for your training and have that goal, saying, right, we've got our 8 matches and it's going to take all the squad, so everyone's going to have an opportunity to play, which is fantastic. So, and it's interesting that the SWPL finishes the day that this starts. It's all happening. So I think that's fantastic for the game in Scotland.
And it gives that routine back, which probably so many people have missed for so long. But you talk about adapting and changing with the times. I mean, for you, with your experience in both rugby and tennis, how much have you had to adapt and change over the past couple of months for things that you never thought would ever happen? Yeah,
it was interesting. We were talking about, so we're allowed back for training at clubs and schools. So that's been since March, and that sort of started individually, and now it's group training. So things like the balls have got to be sanitised and making sure our hands, but we're making progress, and it's depending on what level you're in, what you're allowed to do. But adults, we're allowed to do a bit of touch rugby in the majority of areas in Scotland at the moment, and the minis, they've been allowed to get on with their games and play, so they're great, and the juniors too. Exactly, yeah, all out, and the minute they're allowed to do internal games, the youths as well. So there's things happening, you know what I mean. So again, adapting and just waiting for the right time and being physically ready. There is training you can do. Like I was doing some outdoor Pilates. Who thought we were going to do outdoor Pilates
in Scotland?
Exactly. And this lady turned up and she didn't have any clothes, and I was just like, it's not indoors with me, but jacket. She was like, I'm so cold, Heather.
Not in the sun yet.
So and things like, you know, wild swimming. There's all these. It's sometimes using it as an opportunity to keep fit in a different way that you'd never thought. You know, I was in a loch in Scotland in March. I'm like, what am I doing? My mum's going, hurry up, swim. So you know what I mean. So you're like, well, that's one way of, you know, keeping fit and being ready for what you like doing, and you find out you like doing other things as well, the challenges. So I'm sure all those girls, and I think it's to support you know, in a team environment, you know, you like doing things together, you know, and you have that goal, that common goal, so you come together through your love of the game. So yeah, good luck to them. Yeah.
Finding out that you enjoy doing other things, what are other sports that you found out? You mentioned Pilates there and wild swimming. Is that have you kind of tested yourself with different sports to try over the past year? I
think it was just different types of training, what you're allowed to do. Like probably have my bike out more as well, the cycling, both indoors, like I managed to get one of the rollers, and then outside as well, and finding cyclopaths that you like. So there's different things that you can do. Mind you, I was up at Arisaig. I was really lucky, saying about the restrictions there, so they eased a couple of weeks ago, so I went up to Arisaig, and there's a lovely and amazing 9-hole golf course there, so swung a club. I missed fresh air the first 3 shots. Said I wasn't going to say that, but I did. So like, and this lady was like, but then once you get your rhythm going, so it's the same for like coming back to any sport, you know, the difference, like we've been doing early morning sessions with our men at the club, and the difference even in 2 weeks is that you get your rhythm and your momentum going. So like those girls going back to their domestic league, they'll get their rhythm and momentum, and it'll be such a concentrated period of time. They'll have to support each other through that. Yeah.
Good. So, well, it's great to hear, great to see, and I'm definitely taking some inspiration from you for trying new sports. Logan Hannah bocha gan sil réisio charichen vo is ook agus gabig stata churora is shaggy finer cool na coile son na chiad ur. Fhrìomh Logan vochan garage ek noch hill gus fine mach midriach kuka shaw.
I'm Logan Hannah, I'm 19, currently studying at Stirling University. Got into racing through my dad. we lived abroad in Dubai, motorsport and cars and all that sort of stuff is massive out there. It literally started one day because my mum bought my dad a car experience to take his car on a track, and for him, he never looked back. And then little 9-year-old me, I tagged along to every race weekend. I'd missed school for it. I think I missed one race weekend over his 4 years of racing, and from then on, sort of he got me in a go-kart, did some car rentals, like kart rental stuff, and then just went from there, not stopped.
Gahas Logan Hannah suas bhí pecking a hard a réisiach, agus unúd go dúdi chom cartí a chaim, húdi amach go talentaiche, agus go statara an uairsin.
I would say it jumped from sort of hobby to career when I was karting back home in Dubai. I joined and kind of got recruited by this academy called the YRDA, which is ran out of Arden, and they opened my eyes to the possibility of jumping into single-seaters, being in all these fancy simulators, travelling and seeing all the teams and going to the racetracks and stuff. And from then, opening my eyes from what was just go-karting at my local go-kart track and travelling here and there to the endless possibilities that motorsport is, sort of picked up from there. And then since moving home, stayed with the YRDA for, I think it was 4 or 5 years in the end. Started racing here with Graham, did a few testing elsewhere, went to some tracks, met some drivers, sort of joined other academies, just saw so many great things, and I just kind of now know that that's sort of what I want my life to look like in the future.
Haienis Danyan, Biolanji Yeno Macha race na Carichen, agus haie de week mas servacala to Chuchikin, a hat Gidach, Nuikblin the Chiakugush.
So I race in Formula Ford 1600 at the moment. There are multiple different championships for this type of car in the UK. There's the Scottish Championship, which I've raced in previously and probably will currently race in this year. There's a Northern Championship, which sort of runs around Ireland and that sort of part of England, and there is like the National Championship, which would be the biggest one for this type of car in the UK, which runs all over the UK, sort of in Ireland, Wales, everywhere. But it's kind of a money thing at the end of the day for us, because we found Graham back in 2017 and sort of kept in touch, and then 2018 had a first shot in a Formula Ford, and I think I just sort of fell in love with the way the cars move, because the fastest way to get this sort of car around a corner is like a 4-wheel drift.
Ron a pandemic, van driver Formula Ford gino urtus mór, ach an nuair sin bhfuil buí COVID-19 tíag, ga bhór chuid dhéana racing an na WPL. Ruta gan thug Logan or a smúnichach, men a hamasan aiche.
Yeah, prior to the pandemic, so pre sort of 2020 sort of idea, had done a little bit of Formula Ford, tested some cars down south. I'd raced at the F1 in 2019 in a Formula 4 car. That was eye-opening, really. That just sort of fueled the fire even more, because sort of seeing everything that's on TV in real life and then being invited into places that you could only dream of and money couldn't pay for, it was incredible, and sort of came off on this high end of 2019, December 2019 into January, sort of looking like racing's going to start up again, to then be hit with a global pandemic essentially. That was a bit tough. But we really sort of made the most of what we had last year. It was grateful enough to have the opportunity to race at the David Leslie last year, and I really did make the most of that by winning it essentially. And sort of that was a 3-weekend on the trot sort of thing. So we had the David Leslie, the Formula Ford Festival, and then the Walter Hayes Trophy, one weekend after the other. Won the David Leslie up here, went back to my flat, packed everything up, drove down to Brands, had an amazing weekend at the festival. Stayed in a hotel for a few days and then was back out on track at Silverstone, and those 3 weeks were incredible, and being able to compare myself 2020 to 2019, even like the increase in sort of ability that I had even just through probably seat time was massive. And then each year you progress, and each time you get in the car you progress, and hopefully that's something that never stops.
Leis nach roie farpis, chlech Logan an únisin son a skillinaiche leisachig, agus an is haie dash, a bunach a cúpanen, agus a cud Amazon ure roichbe.
For the rest of this year, we'll definitely be second in Formula Fords because one, that's something that I'm really enjoying at the moment, and two, that would be something that our budget allows. But if possible, and if given the right amount of funding, I'd like to go for the Scottish Championship and hopefully try and challenge for that. Because that was our aim last year, but then they ended up cancelling the Scottish Championship last year, so there was no sort of championship to run for. And seeing where we left off in Scotland last year, if we can pick up from there and keep going, I think it could be done. But then also, hopefully, if we find the money, doing some nationals here and there and getting out with the bigger grids and the more cars and the more experienced drivers would be better.
Hannah Heather and Javadani could go past in the race na carriage in the fast. Agus ha Logan a dochus galension out na blin in the hearing.
At this stage of motorsport, and probably at my age now, there's no real difference. I would say the only difference is maybe an awards evening when I'm actually done my hair and makeup and people don't recognise me, and that's about it. But when it actually comes to being at the race weekend, helmets are on, you're out on track, everyone's the same. But sort of when you're younger and you're such a young age in karts and running and stuff about, the social aspect is so important that for a little girl being surrounded by a whole bunch of boys, you don't feel, there isn't always the prejudice, but you can feel it sometimes, whether it be within a race team and all the boys go that way and I just kind of sat with my mum. But as you grow up, people kind of start to realise that really there's not that big of a difference, and it's always going to be sort of a mixed gender sport, I hope, because the participation for women in motorsport is only going up. It's not something that's sort of going down. It's started at such a minuscule level when I started. There was almost no one to look up to other than, I would say, Peppa Mann or Danica Patrick and Susie Wolf, to now knowing such an array of different females in motorsport that I can say are one, my friends, and two, I've raced against or I look up to in a sense. And I would say that the ideal is changing, the stereotype is changing, but there's still much more to be done.
Yn draste ha gleifig Giovanna Gashki yn sas yn y reis na carrichen, agus ha Logan a gatchach gyfile dydw gi smynich gysunigi a fi nasa eisiampler da fod na dich is clanian ille, ma chwmys I ora a geno urtus and spars.
When I raced at the F1, I had a few girls come up and ask for pictures, and it was just one of the most surreal things, because I mean, up until this point, I've always kind of just been like, oh, it's just myself, and sometimes you forget what you've actually achieved, and every now and then you take a step back and it's kind of eye-opening to remind yourself what you've actually been able to achieve. Or you meet someone new and you tell them that you drive cars and it's like this big cool thing, and I have to kind of remind myself, oh yeah, that's not quite normal, it's not like playing football or something. And yeah, the becoming a role model and that sort of stuff is something that I would love to do, to be able to say that I inspired some young girls or young boys even to get into the sport and boost it up a little bit.
Heather, how much did you enjoy watching that?
Yeah, fantastic. Just really fascinating to see what she's achieved already and what she could possibly achieve. I mean, it's a mixed gender sport, which is fantastic. And yeah, she won the David Leslie Trophy last year in the middle of pandemic. So even that, she was saying, oh, I didn't think 2020 was going to be anything, and then she ends up winning things. So I think the sky's the limit with her. Really, really exciting. Yeah, great to watch.
It is great to watch, and you can tell the thrill that Logan must get from doing that, and it makes you totally understand why she just wants to keep climbing up the ranks.
Yeah, and it was interesting when people ask her about it, and she's like, oh yeah, well, what I do is pretty amazing, when she takes a step back from it. Like, obviously she's been immersed in it from the age of 9, and she's talking about role models, but clearly, like, within the family, that was her role model, so there was no gender distinction there, so that was really interesting. So she wasn't thinking, oh, my dad's doing it, therefore I can't do it. It was the exact opposite. She was like, oh, I want to do that, and I'm going to go every weekend for 4 years and watch what you do. So that's really, really interesting, you know what I mean? So that's never been a barrier for her, so it's really exciting. So
it is exciting, and she does say that she, like you said, that she says that she wants to be a role model. She already is herself a role model.
Oh, phenomenal, phenomenal. It's interesting, I was looking up like the history of Formula One, and there has been, and it's not just recently, there has been a couple of Italian ladies, an American lady, etc. coming through. So there are people there to go up all the different ranks, and I suppose each time they've been regarded as one-offs, etc. But when you put them all together, they are inspiring role models. She's talking about Susie Wolf, I think she's originally from Oban. So fantastic, so there is a couple, but she by far is, yeah, absolutely, yeah, paving the way. so really exciting. I'm sure she'd have been watching the Monaco Grand Prix on Sunday. You know, it was interesting because I don't know anything about motor racing, but the guy that won it, Max Verstappen, was saying 78 laps, and it's the concentration required. So that's
for so long.
Because everyone's talking at interviewing him at the end. He must be absolutely exhausted, and they were saying, "Oh, you're winning," and he was like, "No, I had to keep saying to myself, you know, don't slip up, don't sleep up, concentrate." So. Because there was a study, and I think it's something like 30% is the physical side, but 70% is the brain and your ability to multitask at speed. So she must be phenomenal.
It's when you hear that you actually you need to appreciate it even more. It's not just driving. I think probably a lot of people watching it maybe think that, but there's so much more to it. And I suppose it's not something, especially women in motorsport, it's not something you hear a lot about in Scotland. So it is really important and great to see somebody like Logan.
Yeah.
In 2021, kind of paving the way again for more
and
girls
reminding
to come
people
through
what's possible. There's studies that, you know, there's no reason why the females can't compete against the males. Physically, they've got the attributes to absolutely no problem do that. And so it's more, I think, a cultural thing as well, that whereas the higher you up go, and she's talking about obviously the budget and the sponsorship, etc. But I'm sure somebody will come in and, like, you know, if she's wanting to go through the stratosphere, because that's such an exciting prospect, and she's only 19, so phenomenal. So yeah, good luck to her.
It's such an exciting one to watch. I mean, I thought it was interesting, a few of the things that she was saying about when she was growing up and actually being a girl in the sport. I mean, she said, when it comes to race weekend, helmets are on, you're out on the track and everyone's the same. Yeah,
it's irrelevant, absolutely
totally.
irrelevant.
It's like the stig, nobody knows actually who's underneath it. And you can forget those, oh, she's a girl, he's a boy.
No, it's game on, it's game on. It's helmet on, boots on, whatever it is, you know, and you're ready to go, and the focus. And I think the focus into there, and we were talking about, you know, trying other sports, but if you have a focus and a commitment, you know, sometimes you have to go in another way, but she's got the long, you know, you never lose sight of what that goal is, and she's got that focus and dedication, and obviously every weekend, so she's not doing, you know, she's not doing things that other people might be doing, but she's perfectly happy. That's her, you know, she's perfectly happy to do that. That's what she wants to do, and she wants to commit to that, and she wants to dedicate, and that's the time and the effort required for that. Yeah.
The other thing that I picked up on her, what she said, that sometimes she could feel the prejudice growing up. Boys went one way and she sat with her mum. I mean, she says that things have changed, but it still hits you when you hear that, doesn't it? Yeah, I know. I think that's an interesting thing. I think maybe that's to do with maybe just the type of person. So, you know, maybe that's just being a wee bit shy at the beginning. I don't maybe think that's necessarily a gender thing. So I think maybe, you know, the boys can maybe make more of an effort, and she could, you know what I mean, meet somewhere in the middle. So hopefully that, and as obviously as she goes up the ranks, more females come into it, so she's not just the only one, you know what I mean. Having 2 or 3 would be, you know, to start with, and then hopefully it becomes parity, or maybe more girls and boys, who knows. So but I don't think, sometimes that I wouldn't get to, that was just her memory of it. So I think hopefully, you know, at schools, etc., there's much more into integration. Yeah. You know, integration. So, and the numbers as well. So, I mean, in rugby, you get mixed. You know, at minis, all very much mixed together. So they don't care who they're flying into.
Yeah, exactly. So, and the thing is, it was almost just like there must be a switch when the helmet's on. It's like, I know what I'm doing here. Yeah. So. So hopefully, because there's a social side, she wants to be doing her aim, but with any sport as well, there's the social side and the support, you know, and if there's 2 or 3 of you, etc. But again, just a bit more integrated. It could be a girl, it could be a boy, it doesn't matter. Yeah. It doesn't matter. You know, who's your friends, etc. in the sport. Tennis is, you know, it's got a history of being one of the most integrated sports as well. So, but maybe that would just have helped her. So maybe the next generation coming through would, there's a
progress
bit more
for that.
Exactly.
People understanding it a bit more. That you can be anyone and you can do it if you put your mind to it, like Logan clearly does. Yeah. And there's like so many. I think sometimes each generation thinks they're sort of breaking the barriers, but then when you're doing the research of Formula One, there was that lady when nobody thought that was possible, and so apparently she like helped her boyfriend, and she was the one that ended up racing. He was the one helping her. So I was just like, so it's just, I think, more of a numbers game and a visibility game. So, you know, maybe there wasn't a spotlight shone on that. So, and making sure that the history records are very much there to say, listen, this is already what's being achieved. So we're not starting from scratch, but
you know, we need
Yeah.
to push on here. We need to make that progress. Yeah,
And
yeah.
we will be seeing Logan in the history
Oh.
book soon, I can imagine.
It'll be so exciting, Formula One. Yeah,
I know.
exactly. Yeah, amazing. Whatever
Yeah.
she's doing, like, sure she commit to it
Yeah,
wholeheartedly.
absolutely.
Yeah,
A brilliant one to watch. But Heather, thank you so much
No
for
problem.
joining us again. And
No
we do look
problem.
forward to having you back on the sofa next time, and also just to hear more progress on sport, and hopefully we're in a better place.
Absolutely. Okay, nice to
Thank
speak to
you.
you. Nice to
Thanks.
speak to you.
And a cheachdain bhí Fiona McIntyre ceannaid bal caution an ban ag an SFA callrooms in studio. Jan cín seach go bhfuil si bh lenta trí seascad ar YouTube agus céibh si an program Mhéire gacín ar iPlayer a BBC. Agus cuide cúteach go bhí gemicin an SWPL bio ar fiag a BBC ar an ddíire cheachdain na me Spartans in Glasgow City de Donnich ar BBC Alba. Ach na nahuras, mar sin leib an drás.